can't let you hear it, but I never thought there'd be a world where any version of Metallica's Unforgiven played over the Disney logo.
The real sin here is you confusing Nothing Else Matters with The Unforgiven. I realize they're both off the Black Album, but come on, they sound nothing alike. Also, this would literally be a sin on Disney, a brand, not the movie. You should take this sin to your defunct channel, CinemaSins, and stick it there. The title and theme of the song fits this movie practically perfectly.
Legends are born in truth.
And nearly all movies are born with narration.
You sin the same thing twice. All legends are born in truth is very simple. It means that there's usually some truth to every legend you've ever heard. It's like playing the phone game. Some pieces of the original message will probably still be there by the time it reaches the last person, but the message itself is effectively gone. Just because you think of extra things to say after your first sin of something doesn't mean you should be sinning it again. Unless you're just trying to pad the sin count, bro.
Petal from the great tree could cure any illness and break any curse.
Basically, this is a setup to another Pirates of the Caribbean movie, and we just happen to have another ride at our theme park we can use to rebrand it. And it gives us an easier explanation for Johnny Depp not being here.
So any movie that uses the cure to a curse and a frigate in its opening is now just another Pirates of the Caribbean movie? Do I have that right? Second, Disney had been trying to make a movie about the Jungle Cruise since the release of the first Pirates movie. I'm sure you know that since it's in the trivia section of IMDb. You just decided to act like you think it should be an intro to a pirate movie.
Of course, all of this was covered in the Werner Herzog film Aguirre, The Wrath of God, but he was looking for El Dorado, which was the lost city of gold Kevin Kline and Kenneth Branagh were looking for in that cartoon from 20 years ago. Why you couldn't just change the name of the explorer is a f***ing mystery, but okay, this famous conquistador was looking for healing petals, sure.
Tell me you read the trivia section of IMDb without telling me you read it. Also, that movie was made in 1972. Something tells me you haven't watched it yourself, even if you didn't read the trivia section. Also, Jeremy makes a pop culture reference that's not a sin of the movie. Also, they already told you why they didn't change the name of the explorer. All legends are born in truth. So the legend is that they were looking for these petals that can cure any curse, but the truth is they were looking for El Dorado. You see how that works?
He was found by the guardians of the tree and nursed back to life.
The who with the what now?
This sin comes out of nowhere. It's almost like you're just sinning random things and not actual sins of the movie.
That he demanded they give him the sacred arrowhead, the key to finding the tears of the moon.
I know the narration has switched from what we know to the legend of this story, but why is it every time someone does all the hard work to find some sort of treasure, there's an ancient amulet, a purity ring, or a blessed pickaxe that they need to go any further? Whoever's responsible for creating this tree and not making more of them around the world is an asshole. I'll tell you what, I'm gonna make this tree that will end lots of suffering, but I'm gonna make it really hard to find, and then you have to go through all the obstacles before you can use it.
So you're sinning the movie because they're telling you that this one tree that can break a curse only grows in this one place on Earth? Do I have that right? How is this a sin again?
Aguirre attacked.
This is a lot of exposition for a movie about a f***ing jungle cruise.
They are giving you the backstory of what the movie will be about. We all know you'd sin it anyway if they started searching for it without telling you what they were looking for and why.
Finally unlock the location of pause for dramatic effect.
Yeah, this guy is not nearly as smart as Emily Blunt is, and yet she has to sit way up in the rafters somewhere while this dolt gives the speech. But you knew you were putting Ron Burgundy up there, and you didn't bother to change the color of the ink when you gave him this pause for dramatic effect instruction. So this is on you, Emily Blunt.
The movie takes place in 1916. I know that multicolored ballpoint pens are easily found much later in the 20th century, but something tells me that she couldn't just switch pens or change colors as easily back then. Besides, you can see the parentheses that offset what he's supposed to do from what he's supposed to say. Something tells me that if it had been a different color, you'd sin that for being too modern for a movie that clearly takes place in the distant past. Also, this is how women were treated in the scientific community in the past. This is even explained in the movie by a later scene.
Honor of refusing when it was submitted by a female writer.
They also explain to him that they agreed to listen in deference to his late father.
Granted you an audience in deference to your late father.
Someone that likely had more standing in the scientific community than even he does. You know this. You're just manipulating the scene.
Pataris Gallery is that way.
That's racist.
No, that would be misogynist.
Holy sh**, did she just chloroform that guy? Anyway, unless she spent 5 minutes forming this dude, this wouldn't work, so I'm gonna go that route on the Senate.
I was going to remark how you were probably wrong, until I noticed that Wikipedia also states that it takes 5 minutes for chloroform to take effect. Huh. Interesting. Tell me you read the Wikipedia on chloroform without telling me. But since you're correct, I'll leave a sin off.
It's a Pink Panther movie.
Jeremy makes a pop culture reference that's not a sin of the movie.
A woman in the reflection of this sword that I clearly saw run away? Oh well, if I don't see her when I turn around, it was probably the shrooms talking again.
You've slightly manipulated this scene by slowing it down just slightly. He sees her for a split second and thinks it's someone standing beside him. When he looks over, no one is there. He has no reason to be suspicious of anything. For all he knew, someone was just passing by.
Stealing from Bad Times at the El Royale, though technically both are doing a twist on Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Jeremy makes a pop culture reference that's not a sin of the movie.
Oh, that's the arrowhead they keep talking about. And she's stealing it? I thought she was a good guy. I guess maybe her motto is, it belongs in a museum.
Jeremy makes a second pop culture reference. In a row. That is not a sin of the movie. Maybe he should get some new material.
Look! Actual attempted murder.
This is the kind of thing your viewers just lap up. This isn't anything close to attempted murder. She knocks the swords off the wall, hoping they simply get in the way and slow those guys down. She's not attempting to kill anybody, which would be necessary for attempted murder.
This is the 1999 mommy movie with a barely there new Sheen.
You had one sin before falling back into pop culture references. It's like you're having a hard time finding anything wrong with this movie.
The movie tries to make it seem like it would be difficult to capture someone who is using sliding ladders for transportation.
No. The movie tries to make it seem like most of these guys are bumbling idiots. They probably are in this regard. They're scientists, so they have no understanding of tactics at all. If you had shown the whole scene, your viewers would see that the bad guy is able to bring her to a stop very quickly. But you are more interested in making a pop culture reference, so you cut the middle part out. For that, I'm giving you 2 sins.
Who is that woman?
I do know who that was.
What?
How is this a sin? Seriously, this is the guy that was in the audience from earlier in the movie, who specifically called out her brother for giving a speech that he rejected from her.
Refusing when it was submitted by a female writer.
Of course he knows who she is.
Then all we need is a skipper.
I'll volunteer. I'm a good skipper. I skip things all the time.
Yeah, but just because you're skipping part of the movie doesn't mean that's a sin of the movie.
Is this the opening of The Lion King again? I feel like that was remade only a couple years ago, but my memory is short and Disney knows that, and I wouldn't put it past them to try again so soon.
Jeremy makes a pop culture reference that...
The rocks you see here in the river are sandstone, but some people just take them for granted.
That motherfucker Dicer from CinemaSins wrote the screenplay for this movie.
These are jokes from the ride. Of course they're going to make their way into the movie, just like Pirates of the Caribbean had references to the ride in that movie.
Never gotten so far off the intent of my research, but still somehow gotten angrier. Hate! Hate! Even today, in 2021, the city of Iquitos, Peru, which is the launching point for most of the Amazon River cruises, is not accessible by road. You can only get there by river or airplane.
I cut out most of this sin because it's almost a rant. If you want to see the full sin, skip to 329 of his video. I've left the important parts in. That said, I want to congratulate you on doing some actual research. Bravo! The problem with this, though, is that the movie doesn't take place in Iquitos, Peru. It takes place in Portobello, Brazil. How do I know? Because they tell us that right after the title drop. You conveniently cut that part out, though, in order to make this sin work. You know what else you cut out? The shot of the train arriving in the city. So how many people can afford to take a jungle cruise in Portobello, Brazil? The number that can afford a train ticket to the city. It's also clear from the beginning of the movie that there isn't a thriving competitive riverboat business. What the movie tells us is that one guy owns all the boats except Frank's and is going to confiscate Frank's in a week if he can't pay his rent.
1,000 real in 1 week, then you get it back. I don't get my money in 1 week, then I keep your whole boat.
The only reason Lily would have ever been in a newspaper is for stealing shit out of a museum that was, shortly afterwards, a murder scene in which she'd be the prime suspect. Why would the newspaper just put out a story about her looking for the Tears of the Moon? And if you're saying this story came out before all that business at the museum, then how does someone get that kind of publicity from a failed attempt? If I remember this asshole correctly, all she did was submit a paper to him and he rejected it. So why would there be an article about that?
The newspaper article is likely an interview about her search for the arrowhead. You could even see part of the headline that says, Legend, Myth, or Truth. It likely has nothing to do with her rejection by the scientific community. Plenty of people have articles written about them in the newspaper while also not being part of larger organizations. Finally, do you think a newspaper article will be written about her theft? They probably didn't report it to the police because this guy doesn't want a whole lot of attention by the authorities.
She's like a little pinky thorn nothing.
I hate to be this person, believing Paul Giamatti should have at least 3 Oscar nominations and at least 1 win to his name, and then see him in a movie like this. Oh, I'm sure he got to pay for a nice house with the check from this movie, and I'm happy for him, but god damn it, can this guy be in something where an academy of some sort can reward him for good work, or ignore him again? At least he has 1 Primetime Emmy, I guess, but Jimmy Fallon has 4, so where does that put us?
What? Take this to Branson's, since it's a sin on Hollywood. It doesn't belong here.
Luckily for Frank, he was able to catch up to Nilo just in time to see where he put the key to the boat engine that he locked up.
So we should be surprised that the ship captain decided to follow the guy that took his engine and watch where he puts the key? Because that's literally what happened. They just didn't show us the part where the skipper followed him, but it's assumed by rational folks that that's what happened.
He taps this guy's shoulder, but why? He steals an umbrella from a barrel, but the shoeshine guy even looks at him after that and doesn't bat an eye. Did he even crime?
He's trying to hide his face from that guy and the next guy. By tapping him on the shoulder, the guy turns and doesn't see his face. He's not bothered by someone taking an umbrella and walking off with it, but he probably would try to stop the ship's captain from getting in.
It's this f***ing easy to get into Nilo's office.
It's 1916 in the middle of a small jungle town. Were you expecting there to be bars on the windows? He literally has to push the windows open, which probably broke the latch. Do you have a steel security gate on your door? Do you have extra long deadbolt screws? Do you know how easy it is for the average criminal to break open your door with a crowbar? This is the same thing, but in 1916.
I could get you there.
You literally just said nobody could get there.
Yes, but he was obviously insinuating that no one sane would ever actually want to go there. Hence why he said no one can go there. Have you ever told someone you can't go there, but you really meant I could take you there, but you really don't want to go there?
Let's do something that's safe, so me, you, and your pants.
Wow, they actually thought this joke about Lily wearing pants had a super long shelf life in this movie, didn't they?
The pants joke was already explained. Again, it's more of an earlier 20th century misogyny thing than anything else. Women, especially in Europe, don't wear pants.
Oh, and on top of all this, Lily is an amazing lockpicker. It's almost like maybe we didn't need to waste any time with this f***ing Nilo guy and just made Frank the only captain in Brazil who's desperate enough to make this trip and be on the adventure already.
Picking a lock like that isn't hard. It doesn't have any pins. All you have to do is manipulate the mechanism, which is easily done. The fact that Lily picks a much more difficult lock earlier in the movie and explains how she learned to pick locks in this scene.
Danilo, I spent my childhood playtime with the toddler pickpockets of Delhi, so there we go.
Would tell you that she has experience picking locks. But you skip that scene and the explanation in favor of simply sitting this. Without Nilo, his engine wouldn't get confiscated. Without that, he has no reason to make the trip. He seems to be doing quite well giving people tours. Literally the only reason for him to make the trip is so he can get paid and get his engine back in 1 week. You know this because they literally start negotiating in the very next scene.
Did a 5,000 real more than adequate?
10,000, I take you there myself.
And Lily starts at 5,000, which is the exact amount of money he needs to get his engine. You're manipulating the scene again to make it look like he has no reason to take her when he really does.
Never gonna find a faster boat in the harbor than L'Aquila.
Oh my god, they really are doing a Millennium Falcon thing here. I was only joking, you dickheads.
Oh, come on. Movies, books, and TV shows already do this. This is not exclusive to Star Wars. Shadowfax was the fastest horse in Middle-earth and impossible for anyone else, except Gandalf, to ride. Ship captains universally think their ship is the best for the job. Stop comparing this to Star Wars.
So, we're not even trying to make these animals look real anymore, are we?
It looks real enough to me. Does it need to be ripping people's arms off for it to be real now? You see what I did there?
Also, this is one lucky jaguar, which just happens to be the name of a reggae band that I just looked up. We'll find out later it's Frank's pet jaguar, but how did he know he'd need her? He was in Nilo's office looking for a key with no idea he would be mistaken for Nilo, and Lily was already going to hire him. So, did he just have her outside hiding in a bush somewhere? I guess he could have brought her in case he ran into trouble in Nilo's office, but that means he somehow snuck a jaguar past the whole town to have one at the ready.
The jaguar is an insurance policy. He doesn't know he'd need her. She's there just in case he does need her to convince the potential client that he can do the job.
So wait, did Nilo not wonder how Frank got this job when his boat shouldn't even be working?
Nilo doesn't care how Frank gets the 5,000 real, just that he does. Frank's ship isn't broken. Yes, it's missing an engine, but Lily doesn't know that. As far as Nilo knows, he's going to hide out in his office until he's sure the jaguar is gone. By the time he comes out, everyone is gone. What's really surprising is that Lily wants to leave in 10 minutes, and you didn't send the fact that it probably took Frank much more than 10 minutes to get the engine, bring it down on the hoist, and then reconnect it to his ship. Did you completely miss all that?
Only in a movie this bloated and desperate for runtime.
Bloated and desperate for runtime? Are we talking about your Sins video or the movie?
The Englishwoman. Pay up.
So wait, that was the plan? Show up with a cage full of birds, hope that she asked about them, hope that she would walk off the boat to pay for them, giving them the chance to put her in the...
Yes, that was literally the plan because they know that that's how much she cares about animals. There was no doubt in their minds that she would attempt to rescue the birds, and when she did, that's when they'd kidnap her. We already saw her attempt to rescue some monkeys. She was only stopped by her brother. Please, try to keep up.
Are they just being chased by everyone now? There were a handful of bad guys a second ago, but now everyone seems to be a bad guy.
No, not everyone. Are you even watching the movie?
All the madcap action from the Cairo scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark, and almost none of the fun.
Jeremy makes a pop culture reference that's not.
My guess is she can't swim.
I wonder what gave you that idea. Maybe because at this scene, she doesn't jump in the water and even says... That indicates to the viewer that she can't swim. But hey, nothing like leaving that part out so you can tally another sin. Am I right?
Can we talk about how f***ing fortuitous the speed and direction of the boat made this gift from God zipline math out perfectly?
Except it didn't math out perfectly. You're manipulating the scenes again. She completely misses the boat and lands on another dock, forcing Frank and her brother to swing the boat around to pick her up.
Okay, but just a second ago, the henchman came into Todd's quarters to let another lady escape. Then the sub goes to the surface, but the henchman wasn't wet. He didn't swim down to the sub. So the sub had to surface, pick up the henchman, then dive again, wait for the henchman's bad news, then resurface. That's idiotic!
Or, and bear with me here, the henchman could have just used a radio while on board the sub. Radios were experimental in 1916, but I don't think that would have stopped Germany from using them.
This works.
Yes, and? They aren't going that fast. You might be amazed at how much force those pylons can take. And if you'd allowed the scene to play out, your viewers would have seen that the pylons did take some damage from doing that.
Sink them and we can recover the arrowhead from the bottom of the river!
That's the plan?
Yes, that's the plan. He's in a submarine and the bottom of the river probably isn't that deep. It would be incredibly easy for him to sink Frank's boat and then find the medallion in the wreckage. You're acting like this is all happening in the middle of the Atlantic.
This is my engine, nobody touches my engine but me.
This is my man thing, nobody touches my man thing but me cliche.
This isn't a man thing. Lots of people don't like having their stuff touched. Motorcycles, cars, computers, boats. I even follow someone on TikTok that doesn't like her motorcycle being touched by other people. Is she making it a man thing too?
Fast and the cruisiest.
Jeremy makes a pop culture reference that's not.
Frank! He's blaming that on Frank?
Yes, because as far as he knows, Frank is the reason that submarine has destroyed the dock. It's not unusual for people to blame the person that is indirectly responsible for something else.
Took over 35 minutes for this movie to properly jungle cruise, and once it does, Lily starts writing her notes on Colonel Kurtz and the Heart of Darkness.
So you're saying the movie because they decided to have a character keep a journal. Do we have that right?
You know, most people smile when they're on camera, Frank.
Actually, not always the case. In the early days of cameras, it was most common for people to not smile, so as to help the portrait have an air of sophistication. Wide smiles were also associated with madness or lunacy. In fact, it wasn't until the 1920s that smiling on camera became common, and this movie is set in 1916, so in your face movie.
I wonder where you got this idea. I'm just going to add that it's more likely that people simply couldn't hold their pose for that long. You see, according to this site, in the early days of cameras, it took 15 minutes for a photo to expose. So if you smiled, you'd have to hold that smile perfectly for 15 minutes. Now, yes, it was often the more wealthy people that could afford to have their pictures taken that preferred to look sophisticated. But let's be real here. If you had to hold your smile for more than a few seconds, you probably weren't going to do it, since you didn't want to ruin something that was going to be very expensive in the first place. These people did not have access to instant pictures. The photo was taken, and then the photographer had to take it back to their studio to have it developed. If you didn't like how it came out, you were going to have to pay them again to come back and take more pictures. They simply didn't have the ability to hit a button on their camera and give you a preview of what it looked like. But something tells me you actually did some research on this, and for that, I applaud you. I'm still going to send you, though.
La Grima si Castel is straight ahead. Stay on course.
Frank, it says on the map that it's passable.
This argument about which direction to go goes on forever, with Frank not mentioning until long after the conversation becomes boring that he doesn't want to go the other way because of rapids.
No, it doesn't. Lily wants to take a shortcut. Frank even reminds her about the rapids. They don't go back and forth in the way you're suggesting they do. He even mentions the fact that she cannot swim as an additional reason why he does not want to go that way. Here's the full conversation from the movie. Also, this would be like hiring a cabbie and then arguing with them about the best route to take. They probably know the area better than you do, so it's usually a good idea to listen to them.
Is no one going to take this camera off the precarious position right on the ledge?
This isn't a precarious position. Stop padding the sin count, bro.
He moans putting on cream, then she's drawing perfect monkeys from memory, and then suddenly the skipper's playing classical guitar. What the actual
You're manipulating the scene again. Earlier, Frank decided that they should anchor at this point because they couldn't travel at night. They had dinner and are now relaxing before going to bed. None of these things are sins of the movie. They're things people do to relax and unwind before going to sleep. You act like it's difficult for an artist to draw monkeys from memory. Is it really hard to believe that a ship captain might have a guitar on his boat?
Believe that the legend is real.
We keep hearing people like Lily and German Jesse Plemons state with absolute belief that the tears of the moon exist without any real scientific basis backing it up. They just believe, man. It'd be nice to hear them explain why they believe it's real.
You're manipulating the scene again. No, she doesn't have scientific evidence for its existence, but if it does exist, it would change the scientific world. Lily explains this in the very next scene.
I believe that the legend is real,
Which it's not.
and I'm going to find it.
Which you won't.
And when I do, just imagine the lives that could be saved. Legend says one petal from the tree will heal anything. It will change medicine forever. It's the beginning of a scientific revolution.
Great timing.
You brought a jaguar on a small boat and expected it not to be discovered after one day. I don't think the jaguar is to blame.
He wasn't really blaming the jaguar and wasn't trying to hide it. It is assumed that the jaguar lives on the boat with him when he isn't in port. The point of the scene is to show Lily that Frank isn't really all that trustworthy. Frank even says this himself.
Is there a single thing about you that I can trust?
Not a thing.
It's not Jesse Plemons' fault, but every time the movie cuts back to his storyline, I find myself nodding off or saying, for f***'s sake!
Sending the movie because you don't like the way it's being told.
The arrowhead is near. You will find it for me.
Let me get this straight. Given his admittedly few options, the prince's plan is to awaken Aguirre, who is now a bunch of snakes, and use the snake network to find the arrowhead? When in the prince's research told him this is possible? I feel like he could have sent word to bring a plane down to Brazil, and they could have flown over the Amazon to find Frank before I'd even consider this.
Yes, but you're manipulating the scene. What Aguirre wants is the river water. Joaquin has the river water and can get more for Aguirre, but he wants Aguirre to help him get the arrowhead in return. So he makes Aguirre promise to show him where the arrowhead is in return for bringing the river water to him so that he can move again. We find out later that if they can't see the river, the jungle traps them, and Frank was able to trap them by drawing them into this giant hole where they'd be unable to see the river. They've been stuck here ever since. And no, you couldn't use an airplane to find someone in the jungle, because it's impossible to see someone on the ground through trees and other jungle stuff from an airplane.
Also, why is the German speaking English to the Brazilian snake?
So they don't have to subtitle the movie every time the German speaks.
After a highly adventurous first day, absolutely nothing of interest happened on this journey for the next however many days, apparently.
Again, why is this a sin? They didn't exactly have an adventurous day on the first day either. The most adventure that they had was finding out that the bath was the river and that they had to basically hunt the food they were going to eat. There's really no reason to show more of that.
After staring at her necklace cleavage earlier, and now him paying close attention to the necklace transfer, it's clear he's either planning to steal it for his own reasons or has been possibly hired to steal it. And she'll probably learn of this after he regrets it, but before he has a chance to prove his change of heart to her.
Mentioning a woman's cleavage when it isn't even visible.
This is a steam engine vehicle with a rudder. It does not handle like a jet ski. God damn!
Yes, and it's going through rapids. He doesn't handle it like a jet ski, nor does it move like one. It does get bounced around a lot by the rapids, though.
Want to turn back?
I really hate this guy. Not in a he's irascible but lovable kind of way. Strictly in an I actually hate this guy kind of way.
Why? Because he tried to tell her that taking the rapids wouldn't go well, and now that's turning out to be true?
We find out later that Frank was Aguirre's amazing cartographer, and besides that, he knows the Amazon like the back of his hand. So why is this waterfall a big f***ing surprise?
Probably because he hasn't been down this route in a long time. He has told Lily multiple times that she doesn't want to take this route due to the rapids. We can even see that the river splits for a second time with the waterfall on the viewer's left. And he tells Lily later on that once he found out he had to stay within sight of the river, he decided to just establish a village there. He spent years building the village and then started giving tours. He had no reason to take dangerous routes.
I never needed to see people puking in movies. Audio is enough, you f***ing assholes.
Ordinarily, I'd agree with you. But Lily and her brother are now seasick, so it makes sense to have them vomiting over the boat.
Also, Also, I never need to see CGI animals puking in movies.
Come on. The Jaguar was drunk. Neither of these are sins of the movie. They're just things that you don't like to see. I think you've been sinning them since day one, though.
Here's an eavesdropping snake. Probably one of the snakes Kirsten Dunst's boyfriend released with the river water teardropper back in that scene I wish I could forget. I'm sure it's nothing. Snakes don't speak English anyway, right? Right?
What exactly are you sitting here? The fact that the snake was spying on them, or that they didn't notice it?
Here's where Jungle Cruise reveals itself to be a stealth prequel to Sinister.
Jeremy makes up, you know what? I'm just gonna add 20 cents here and move on. That should take care of all the pop culture references.
Stealing again! She steals a lot.
How is she stealing it? If anything, she's breaking in, but she isn't stealing it because she never left the boat with it.
I've tracked the legend to every village, every island, every shoal. Nothing.
But she never had this.
Wait, did Frank give up looking for the Tears of the Moon because he couldn't find them? Or is it because he couldn't find the arrowhead? Because it sounds like he tried to find the Tears of the Moon without the arrowhead, which is the object everyone knows you need to find them.
Both? He literally knows he needs the arrowhead to find it, which is why he wanted his Jaguar to take the arrowhead from Lily. And he explained earlier, which I've already partially included, that he looked for it for years and could not find it.
Movie. Okay, let's do some King Kong now. Why the f*** not?
Frank literally refers to headhunter territory right before this, which is a direct reference to the ride. This has nothing to do with King Kong, and you know it.
They don't fight Lily because they're basically just actors and don't want to hurt anybody. But they shot her, McGregor, and Frank with knockout darts before this all started. What's to stop them from doing the same thing here? Why give away the plot?
You're manipulating the scene again. We see Lily grab a piece of jawbone on their way in. While Frank and the actors are pretending to threaten them, she's cutting her ropes. Lily frees herself and then grabs a spear and starts threatening the actors. They give away the secret because she's ready to start killing them.
Listen, the truth is I didn't get a chance to call this entire thing off.
How did you even have a chance to call the entire thing on? You had 10 minutes to get this expedition started from the moment you got the job, and most of that time was used lowering an engine into your boat, and you got attacked by Germans in a submarine. When was there time to orchestrate any of this? Was there a secret meeting during the time you traveled by map that we didn't see?
Dude, they live in the jungle. He pays them to scare the people he brings down the river. He doesn't need to plan this in advance. That's why he's talking about the arrowhead. They can understand him perfectly, and they just need to keep playing along. This isn't hard to understand, and it isn't a sin of the movie.
Must turn water to stone, then mend a broken heart.
God damn it, I don't give a shit about these healing petals anymore. Let's just discover penicillin already. This fucking quest is too hard and not worth it.
So the sin is because they have to do something extra before they'll be able to get the Tears of the Moon. Do I have that right? It's basically a riddle that they have to solve.
For tears to bloom, the great tree must be under the red crying moon. There is one in 2 days.
Holy shit, are you serious? God damn, that's convenient. We'll take it.
Yes, it's convenient because it's a movie. Did you forget you were watching a movie again?
One is a driver.
Golf.
Yes, he's teaching them about golf. It's a topic he's quite familiar with, and something these people know nothing about. Why is that a sin?
I'm so exhausted by this movie's unwavering drive to avoid doing even a single original thing.
The ride is based on a mishmash of various references, so it's not surprising that there would be various references to other material throughout the movie. What is surprising is that you think these are sins. They are not. Stop padding the sin count, bro.
Frank, get it.
Hold on.
Come on.
Movie tries to prove the point that if you insert any character looking at other characters like they're crazy, it must make it way more amusing than it would be without them.
No, they're trying to show that it's like watching a train wreck. You know they aren't going to make it, but you can't take your eyes off them.
So continue the dumbest curse rules ever so that the screenwriter can give it out to the heroes. I would argue that they are no farther from the river than they were 2 minutes ago, but go on with your bullshit, movie.
They explain this later on, and you're manipulating the scene. A moment ago, Lily was right at the river's edge. She was told to run away from the river, so that's what she did. This guy is now telling Agira that they're getting too far from the river because before, they were just over it or right next to it. It is explained later on that they have to remain within sight of the river. If they don't, the jungle will pull them back to it.
Y la mujer esa de los pantalones ha cogido la flecha y se la ha llevado más allá del río.
Porque sabe que allí no podemos seguirla.
Yeah, but she can't stay away from the river forever, right? She's not going to walk through the jungle to get to the tree. So why don't they use their bee and snake network to find her and follow her?
They literally talk about sending the bees to the prince to follow her in the same scene. You're just clipping the scene short in order to add a sin where no such sin exists.
I'm roughly 400 years old.
Roughly? Can you not Can you not count that high? Why roughly?
Probably because he stopped keeping track of the years and finds it unnecessary to tell her exactly how old he is when he can give an approximation that'll serve the same purpose.
Would you like to bite down on my stick?
What the hell, Moomy? That's literally the title of the fanfiction I just started writing to distract me from watching this movie.
Jeremy references a boner.
So what do we do when we need the audience to learn a bunch of backstory all at once? Just let the Rock say it all. I don't know, do some reshoots, silly wig, bada boom, bada bing. Won't the audience get bored? I said bada bing!
It's called exposition, and you'd sin it no matter how it was delivered, despite it not being a sin of the movie.
Gide was happy because he was closer than ever to finding a cure for his daughter. But he grew impatient. Aguirre demanded they give him the arrowhead.
This story leaves out a lot. Like, was Aguirre asking about the arrowhead before he got impatient? Was he told any of the rules? And why couldn't he simply ask for one petal to bring home? If the whole reason for this expedition was to save his daughter, then that seems like a reasonable request that he didn't even bother with. He went straight from being cured to, I'm impatient, without any real reason given.
In the beginning of the movie, we're told that he asked for it and they wouldn't give it to him. Do you have any kids? If you did, you'd know that as a parent, you'll do pretty much anything to protect your kids. Imagine that they're very sick and you can completely cure them, but the person with the cure won't give it to you. You might be willing to take it with force in order to save your child.
I trapped them in a cave where the jungle couldn't take them back to the river.
You mean all these vines couldn't just drag them all out of the cave? Or do a relay kind of thing with the other vines in the jungle? I think it's kind of weird you give all these magical properties to the jungle, but somehow it gets stumped by this shit.
No, the vines couldn't. See, this is part of the problem. You're given an explanation for how the curse works, and you're still mad and don't think it's good enough. That's how the curse works. Deal with it, bro.
Your sister and Arrowhead were here. Now I need to know where she is going.
I'm gonna twist myself into a plot pretzel here because I'm super confused. I thought the bee told the prince where Lily was going already. Now, there's no way the bee could actually know where she was going because bees didn't follow her. But Aguirre specifically told the bee guy...
Decidle dónde ha ido.
Apparently the bees told him where she was, which is virtually worthless, unless you somehow luck into finding her brother and threaten to kill the Pukamachuna.
You literally just answered your own question, and yet you're still giving the movie a sin? You're hilarious, dude.
And it's fucking bright out here on the Amazon River at night. Are there chandeliers somewhere?
He says as you can literally see a lantern in the window.
Everything that you see that's new in this world, I've seen hundreds of thousands of times.
No, you haven't. You've been stuck in the Amazon for 400 years. How have you seen everything that's new? Even if you mean stuff that's new to her, this is an incorrect statement.
No, it's not. He's referring to all the new things she has seen in the Amazon River area. Everything here has been new to her. That's all.
McGregor points immediately to the correct place. He could have sent the prince on a 3-day wild goose chase, but no, he picked the exact spot.
You're manipulating the scene again. McGregor does in fact hesitate for a moment, but the prince yells at him, and since McGregor is scared of everything, immediately tells him the correct location.
Why the f*** are these bees still here? Why haven't they flown back to Hivecore Henry?
The bees were trying to be helpful and were going to give the exact location of the tree to the other guy. That's why the prince kills them. You could have included that bit, but then you wouldn't be able to sin it.
Oh no! The piranhas start attacking Frank, even though we know he's immortal and will live through it. Oh no!
That isn't the issue. The issue is that Lily is running out of air and the piranhas are keeping Frank from getting to the surface, getting some air, and then coming back to help Lily again. You know this, but you're manipulating the scene again.
Turn water to stone.
Nope. Can't say this out loud, like that clue would have led you in any way to the underwater drain you just saw. And you guys only figured that out because Frank kind of guessed and was right. It's a shitty clue that led to a puzzle that wasn't challenging, and it had a booby trap that didn't even slow you down in a meaningful way.
Frank didn't just guess, though. He swam down underwater and found the puzzle. He knew exactly how to solve it. He just couldn't because he was too big to get inside the contraption. It didn't slow her down? She had to get air from Frank twice because she wasn't able to flip the switch. She nearly drowns waiting for the water to drain out of the area, and you're acting like everything was no big deal.
More about the tears of the moon than anyone, so you know how to make it bloom.
My question for the prince is, how was he planning on finding all this without her? Like, he was very clearly trying to kill everyone earlier, and now he realizes he needs Lily. And I thought he was a Tears of the Moon scholar as well, since he wrote papers on it and shit. Now he's just a low-rent belloc who can't find out anything on his own, despite his vast knowledge on the subject.
No, he wasn't trying to kill everyone. He even said, we'll sink it and then get the arrowhead from the bottom. He thought all he needed was the arrowhead, but it turns out that it's a little bit more involved than that. It also turns out that even Lily didn't know everything she needed to know in order to make the tree bloom. But he didn't know that.
You know how to make it bloom. You will do this for me.
This was the last thing my college girlfriend ever said to me.
Jeremy makes a sex joke that is not a sin of the movie.
Traitor Sam said we would need to fix a broken heart.
Whenever I see a movie like this, where the heroes have to solve puzzles and find artifacts to make a magical totem of some sort come to life, I wonder, was it always this way? Did someone create the Tree of Life and then invent a series of puzzles to find it and operate it? Or did they discover that the Tree of Life worked this way? I know movies don't give a shit about this, and you've probably already fallen asleep during this sin, but these things have never made sense to me. They are adventures that could only exist inside a movie, where crucial details are left out so that we don't think too deeply about it. But I'm thinking deeply about it.
This is literally why the movie starts with, "All legends are born in truth." Are you paying attention, bro?
Is it just me, or is this trip to the entrance to the cave taking way longer than it took to enter the cave and get to the tree earlier?
It's just you.